So I'm in the office live with Dr. Christy Kane for our Therapy Tuesday, and today we're going to be talking about questions that people ask Dr. Kane. So I'm going to invite her in. She's actually two offices over from me, which we're going to actually come together in a few minutes once we invite Dr. Kane on. So let me send her an invite. Here she is. She's on. Give me a second to add Dr. Kane. She is good to go. And we're going to actually come together. So I'm in Highland, Utah at Dr. Christy Kane's practice. Hey, Dr. Kane.
Hey, good evening, Dennis. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. It's weird that we're actually in the same building right now.
Yes, I was going to say long time no see.
Long time to see.
Yeah.
So now, before we come together, let's just talk about the topic we want to discuss tonight. We want to talk about, what do people ask you? Or what are the most common asked questions when people come to your office?
Yes, I thought it would be interesting for people to know some of the things that we get asked as therapists when people sit in our office. So I thought that would be a fun discussion. And then you can open up for others to ask us questions.
Yes. Excellent. So I'm actually typing while I'm trying to type. What are some of the questions that people ask you when they come, or misconceptions they have to come into a therapist?
I think sometimes people think therapists are supposed to fix them. So oftentimes I'll get asked the question, so can you fix me? And it's not the job of a therapist actually to fix anybody. Really, it's really nobody's job to fix anybody, right?
Yes.
It's a journey of self-exploration and learning to help ourselves. And so that's an interesting question that I get asked often.
That's an interesting question, because really what it's about in therapy is you provide tools that we need to become successful or to overcome obstacles that we might be dealing with.
Correct.
And what are some of the things that people would be nervous about coming to a therapist?
I think they wonder if they're going to be judged. I think they worry about whether or not the person that they're talking to is going to really understand. You know, many times I'll have people ask me what my religion is, because oftentimes they wonder if someone's going to try to convert them to their religious faith, or if someone's going to understand their religion.
Yes.
So I think a lot of the fears are you really going to understand me? Because they fear that they might be judged, or that the therapists who may have never experienced what they're talking about may be concerned that they're not going to be able to understand.
Yes. That's a valid point. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Kane.
It's interesting that sometimes we think as humans, because someone hasn't lived in our shoes, they may not understand. And part of that's true, but there's a reality that we all experience hard things. We all go through difficult things, which allows us to have an understanding, even if it's not exactly the same thing.
Yes, that resonates. So what is typically, you're doing a lot of Zoom therapy or virtual therapy with people around the world. What are some of the features and benefits that you are finding from that, if you don't mind me asking?
You know, Zoom, I guess, in some ways allows access to therapy that others might not have. I mean, I have to admit, Dennis, I'm still one of those person that likes the absolute face-to-face in my office. But I also think it breaks down some barriers for people that are really afraid of being seen walking into a therapist's office, because there's still a little bit of that stigma of, I don't want somebody to think something's wrong with me, where in the privacy of your own home, then that stigma doesn't happen, you know?
Yes.
It breaks down some culture barriers as well. It can create a lot of funny moments too, when people are trying to deal with technology in that process, right? And they forget they're on camera. But I still go for the old face-to-face, but I'm grateful that Zoom is present, especially during this COVID time.
It reminds me of the first time you and I went live, and we were driving to Zion National Park, and I was sideways. And what was funny was I even turned my head to read the comments, which should have told me, Dennis, take the phone and hold it vertical.
Yeah. And so, there's faux positive come with that. But, the other thing people wonder is how confidential is therapy? And, they may worry that what they're going to share, others might learn, and that's not the case. As a matter of fact, therapists are bound by law.
By law.
That we can't share what happens in our office.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's a thing called HIPAA. And
Yes.
as a crisis counselor, I was a volunteer crisis counselor. I'm no longer a crisis counselor anymore, but as a crisis counselor, I had to follow that HIPAA. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was strict, so I could lose my insurance. But there's a good question that just came up from WACK. She says, I wish we could get rid of the stigma. What advice, Dr. Kane, would you have to help people get rid of the stigma when it comes to therapy?
When I lecture and talk across the country, I really help people understand that mental health issues are neurologically based, just like physical medical issues have a physiological component, right?
Yes.
Blood cells start having problems just like brain cells do, within the synapses of the brain. So if we can start talking about mental health from a neurological perspective as really understanding it really is medically based. We don't feel shame for cancer or diabetes. We should not feel shame about mental health.
Great advice. So are there any other things you would like to share before we give people a tour of your office and we actually come together and meet?
The other thing to think about is, especially when I do marriage therapy and couple therapy, sometimes people come to see us thinking we're going to tell them, yes, get divorced, yes, stay together, he's wrong, she's wrong, he's right, she's right. It's not therapist's job to decide, to tell you what to do with your life. And we're not referees and we're not judges.
Yes.
So it's really important that they understand that our perspective is to help them see where the flaws may be in their thinking, but not to judge and not to make a decision for them.
Makes sense. Really does. We have another good question from our friend ELIZ. Says, what if you're scared to talk to the therapist when you're going through a lot?
That's when I would say it's most important, because that fear can be crippling in the process of going through things. And so I'd find someone you trust. I would reach out. I would give it a try. The other thing that's really important is to find the therapist that fits you. It's very much relationship based. It's important about the relationship. Yeah. But if you're afraid and you're going through a lot, talk to someone you trust and see who they recommend. One visit can't hurt, but it sure can open a lot of doors.
Yeah. But it's also, we've talked about this in the past because we've been doing Therapy Tuesday for almost since June, I believe, or July. And we talked about that things aren't fixed sometimes in one session. It takes several before you can know that you actually have that connection with that person.
Very true. That's a good point. Yeah. But I think you can know with that first session if it's worth coming back for the second round, right? But you're right. Just as with friends, it takes time to form a bond. It does the same with your therapist. Yeah. It's a very intimate, sacred relationship because you share very vulnerable things with your therapist.
Now, when we first met as friends, we were out to dinner, and I would say that, that was over 2 years ago this month that we had met. And actually, and our friendship has definitely grown over that 2-year basis. Think about it. We traveled on vacation. Now I want to be clear. I don't see Dr. Kane as a patient. I see her as a friend. Right. And I'm doing these Therapy Tuesdays as a forum to help not only the people that follow my account, but in hopes that this would help you, because there's a strong need for therapists now. There's a strong need for doctors and professionals that are licensed that can handle the needs that individuals go through. And so if you can click in the upper left-hand corner, drop down and click follow Dr. Christy Kane. She posts every day, except Sundays. She keeps that day holy. She posts every day, and she provides some insightful, I mean, I laugh. She's sometimes in the dark with no filters,
A
posting
little
these
bit
videos.
realer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keeping it real.
Yeah. I need to work on some lighting, right? It's, I get my greatest inspiration when I'm leaving my kickboxing gym in all my glory, so I'm shooting a video, but yeah.
No
So,
makeup, no shower, all sweaty. And it's
yeah.
like, but that's what therapy is all about, is you don't want somebody that's going to sugarcoat a situation. You want somebody that's going to be authentic and real.
Well, and we live in a false world
Mm.
in so many ways.
So many,
And any
yeah.
moment we can make it just who we are.
Yeah.
I'm not anybody needs to be afraid of, right?
No.
And obviously they can see that I'm human, and that's a beautiful thing. Realness is a beautiful thing.
Well, you did it with your stories today. You posted a story, a video that you did, and it just showed your head bobbing back and forth. And the next one, you're like, yep, I don't get this technology stuff. So here's the actual story you need to. And then you posted a talk you did for TED Talk, and it was talking about addiction to technology. And I just thought that was such a good transition of not getting technology and then people being addicted to technology.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's fun, and it's kind of fun to know, Dennis, that we've done this for a while. That we don't know what life we're going to touch, or maybe door we're going to help open.
Yeah.
But if we can do that for just one person, then it's worthwhile.
That's what matters. So
Yep.
we're going to come together, and I'm going to give you a tour of Dr. Christy Kane's office. Now, what room am I in now?
You're in my intern's office.
Okay, your intern's office. I'm going to turn this around so people can see it. And this is where your intern is.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Kane, you can log off because once we get closer, there's going to be an echo because there's a 15-second delay.
Okay, logging out.
All right. So we're going to actually come together. And this is another room that she has. And that's her office with the door closed. But this is the waiting room. And it smells so good in here. It smells natural. And there's the door. And actually, this is her book that she published, both of them, and some flyers. And so let's just take you through this experience of walking into her door. Yeah, she probably locked me out because she's like, I don't want to see Dennis. Holler.
If I was smart, I would have got that done faster.
You're getting a whole ton of hearts for that. So this is Dr. Christy Kane's office. And I love what she said about people asking her what religion she is. And I think, let's see if I can do this way. I can turn this around so we can just sit like this.
Cool.
Okay. So now we are in Dr. Kane's office.
Hello, everyone.
Holler. So let's see if we have questions. My friend, Elder Carpenter, just posted. He's serving as an openly gay missionary in Anaheim.
Oh, cool.
So, and he says, hey, Dennis, love you and miss you. I'm coming to Anaheim to speak for youth in May. So I will see you again. We have EDI says, love the yellow. Awesome. Lots of stars. So it looks like we don't have any questions. Is there anything you would like to say as I'm kneeling on the floor here to people?
Don't be afraid to visit with a mental health professional. Just last week I did a meeting for a religion, and they had like 4 of their different congregations come together, and it was all about mental health. And I was amazed how well it was received and how many questions people ask. I think we really want to know. I think we really want to understand mental health. So don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to go visit. And don't be afraid to invite someone, myself, or someone else, to come talk in your organizations about mental health. We all need to learn more.
Yeah. You'll be speaking at BYU. Do you want to give that a shout out for in February?
Yeah, I'm going to be speaking at the first ever Life After Divorce conference that's being held at BYU.
That's
so
awesome.
I'm excited. I'm going to be talking about how to be emotionally healthy in dating. So that'll be a fun topic.
That's good.
I'm trying to learn that myself.
Holler. So what's this bouncy chair that Dr. Kane's on? What is that?
It's supposed to be really good for your posture, and so I don't sit on a regular.
Okay. So when we see you bouncing up and down,
yeah,
we know.
I'm sitting on a bouncy ball.
Yeah, a bouncy
I'm not
ball.
sure it's working, but I'm trying.
I have one in my cart on Amazon that I ordered. I just haven't hit send because I'm just traveling so much.
So you're not home to sit on your ball.
I'm just not home to sit on my ball.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is where we always go live together for Therapy Tuesdays. So we highly encourage you to reach out to Dr. Kane if there's anything you need, and she is here to help. And she's keeping it real. I just love her stories. It doesn't matter what religion, faith, background, sexual orientation. I know she would challenge you to choose love.
Yep.
Yep.
We need a lot more of that in the world today.
We do.
So
we're going to say we're sending love and light your way.
Bye-bye. See you later.
Bye for now. It's not